Sule! As I'm sure you're aware, the Cosmere has grabbed the hearts of many fans for over 2 decades now. And the best part, we aren't even close to the finale yet. With half a dozen planned trilogies, dozens of canonical short stories, and of course, the newly introduced Secret Project series, our vast Cosmere is growing quite rapidly. This leaves us with a burning question though. What's coming next? Today, I plan on explaining Brandon's projected timeline of new book releases, as well as what other forms of media are on their way. Also, we have a special surprise for this video. In the spirit of discussing the future of the Cosmere, we brought in a bunch of our creator friends and asked them one simple question. How will the Cosmere end? These guys have some seriously awesome ideas, and we sprinkled their theories throughout this video. We have a subscriber goal of 4,000 for the end of the year, and with your help, I think we can do it. Also, feel free to hype this video if you know what that is. I just learned myself.
Hey Lightcallers, I think the final stages of the Cosmere are going to be the War of the Surges that Odium and Honor were preparing for on Roshar. I think there's going to be a Cosmere-wide conflict, shards picking sides, peoples picking sides, and at the end there's going to be a large battle and everyone dies. And by everyone, I mean the shards of Adonalsium. I think there's going to be one big climactic battle of the peoples of the shards fighting, and then the final shards splintering, and the victors self-splinter, leaving the Cosmere with no gods. I think we're going to see the Cosmere actually end in kind of a hopeful but somber whisper. A big battle, all the shards are gone, and the people are left to rebuild from what happened before. Kind of like a combination of what happens on Roshar at the end of Desolations, but also needing to start a new world like the Catasandra.
The next step for the Cosmere is not a secret. It's on Brandon's website. I am of course talking about the Mistborn Era 3 trilogy, codenamed Ghostbloods. We also know the time gap from Mistborn Era 2 to Ghostbloods is approximately 50 years thanks to this excerpt from the State of Sanderson 2024. It will follow, as the title indicates, the Ghostbloods and their activities on Scadrial, some 50 years or so after the end of Era 2. This trilogy is going to be awesome. We'll get to see the Ghostbloods working their way through Scadrial as it progresses into a more modern day cultural parallel. I think this could easily be a spy thriller mixed with the typical sci-fi fantasy tropes we've come to love from Brandon. I've heard the term urban fantasy thrown around quite a bit, but I have a feeling this is going to have a unique flavor of its own. This is also quite a short gap from the Wax and Wayne saga, so we'll very likely see returning characters as well. Also, the planet's understanding of hemalurgy and the other invested arts will be opening doors to a lot more magic use in new and unique ways. Brandon plans on finishing this whole trilogy before releasing the first book, and Dragonsteel's timeline has book 1 slated for release in 2028, so we will be waiting a little while for this one. If you can't wait that long, Brandon has already shared some preview excerpts from Ghostbloods Book 1, and you can watch those here if you're interested.
The end of the Cosmere is going to have a team of 5, led by Hoid, and then we're going to have 4 avatars, each holding 4 shards. These 4 need to include a scholar, a warrior, an inventor, and an oracle. And then obviously Hoid is a leader, and that's going to be our endgame team that makes everything come together. Harmony will obviously be our scholar, and thanks to Lord Loopy, I think that at the end of Ghostbloods, Ruin and Preservation will no longer torment him because he's going to bring on autonomy, and that's going to help balance things out. Vasher would fit the warrior spot really well, I think. He's been around for a long time and he knows what's up. Our inventor needs to be well versed in the Cosmere, so obviously Chris is number 1 choice. For our oracle, we need someone who has the ability to peek into the spiritual realm. I don't know who that would be, but I think that's going to be our Cosmere Fantastic 5, and that's how it's going to end.
A project that has a little more uncertainty behind it is the Prose rewrite of the White Sand graphic novels. It always struck me as somewhat strange that such a massively important world like Taldane would get such a unique introduction. There is so much opportunity for storytelling here. Half of the world faces the main star and is inhabited by monks who wield magic sand. The other half is only lit by UV light and is inhabited by a highly advanced technological dynasty. It's obvious that Brandon wants the tale of Chris and Kenton on Autonomy's homeworld to be more accessible, and he clearly loves the story. I believe this is his 5th attempt at writing it? Unfortunately though, we haven't heard anything recently about Brandon's progress for this one. 2023's timeline had it slated to come out right around this video's release, late 2025, but the most recent timeline has no details for this project. It may be tabled for now or indefinitely, but we will leave a pinned comment below if we get any more news on this one.
In terms of Cosmere Endgame, I think it's going to have something to do with the reuniting of Adonalsium. We've seen shards be able to be combined already, magic systems work together in very specific ways, it's all going to come together. Whether or not Hoid is trying to help that process or prevent that process,
For all of you Dawnshard and Edgedancer fans, the wait is almost over, maybe? Horneater is the 3rd slated novella in the Stormlight Archive. This story follows Lunamore, or rather Rock of Bridge 4, on his Brandon's journey home to the Horneater Peaks. I don't want to spoil too much here, but this novella was originally meant to slot in between Rhythm of War and Wind and Truth, following the previous pattern set for the novellas. Brandon has stated in the past that he's given himself 2 months in 2026 to write a rough draft, but he did not mention when he plans to release it. I find it really interesting that he's planning to write this book in the middle of writing the rough drafts for Ghostbloods. Maybe it'll be a nice reprieve from Scadrial, or maybe it's more connected than we thought. Regardless, it will likely be a few years until we see this.
So the end of the Cosmere is honestly one of the most cloudy and wild things we could possibly speculate about. But I suspect, if I was a betting man, I would probably say there's 3 groups: Roshar, Scadrial, and a third splinter group either affiliated with or led by Hoid and some dragons. I don't know exactly what that group will look like, but I suspect some of our major characters that are immortal in the Cosmere will probably be in that group. Those are going to be our good guys. But I really think that there's not going to be good versus bad. It's going to be a matter of perspective. And I don't know who's going to win, quite frankly.
Elantris is one of the more divisive novels in the Cosmere, but here at Lightcallers, we have a special place for it in our hearts. Rather excitingly, Brandon's first published Cosmere novel was planned to have 2 more books in the coming years. Yup, Elantris is becoming a trilogy, or rather, it was meant to until Brandon's latest Halloween livestream.
Do you still plan on writing 2 sequels to Elantris within the next couple of years?
Maybe not. I'm gonna play it by ear. I have a lot of movie stuff, nothing I can announce, and so it's not very far along. But I've been working on treatments and screenplays and things like that, and that has sucked up more of my time than I anticipated. And because of that, I'm not 100% sure on where those are. I want to make sure that I get the Era 3 done, and I want to make sure that I get to Stormlight at a reasonable pace. So we'll see.
This story, if written, will supposedly show us a glimpse of a mostly conquered cell. I, for one, hope we get to see more about the dead gods of the planet. Again, I'm keeping spoilers vague here on purpose, but if you want to catch up, check out our summary of the book in 10-ish minutes here. Brandon's plan was to alternate the release of these novels with the Ghostbloods trilogy, and the earliest we could see Elantris 2 would be 2029.
My theory is that after all of the dust settles and all of the factions are done fighting with each other, Hoid and many of the other powerful people in the Cosmere are going to find a way to combine all 4 Dawn Shards into one mega command. And this mega command is going to be used to recreate the Creator. But not exactly. I don't think it's going to be Adonalsium that we get back. Whatever it is, it's going to be what the Cosmere needs. Something better than what Adonalsium was able to provide before, and something better than what the 16 shards were able to do by themselves. I think this leaves the Cosmere on a hopeful note, and I think that will be in line with what Brandon tends to write.
It's no secret that Wind and Truth left us wanting more Stormlight Archive, that is. Brandon has already given us some hints at what Book 6 will really dive into, and he's currently thinking of the back half of this epic fantasy saga as the Voidlight Archive. We will be seeing a lot of familiar characters in a rather different Roshar. I'm excited to see what the planet looks like in 10 to 15 years with its current political state. Technology should be rapidly progressing like everywhere else, and we will likely see Roshar make its footprint on the galactic stage. We honestly don't know too much about the vibe or even the plot for Book 6 through 10, but I imagine it will bring us to the beginning stages of the space age. But who knows what could happen? After all, Stormlight books tend to be rather long. One thing we do actually know quite a bit about is the flashback characters of the next 5 books, and we have a video all about that here. Unfortunately for us, we will have to wait until 2031 for Book 6. That's all for the big novel projects, but we have way more cool stuff going on with Cosmere Media. This year, Dragonsteel teamed up with Brotherwise to give us the Cosmere RPG. The early success of the Stormlight modules has been awesome to see. Here at Lightcallers, we've been playing the Stonewalkers adventure for a few weeks now, and it's incredible. But there's even more good news. Not only has Brotherwise already hinted at an extended, higher-level Stormlight campaign possibly coming soon, but they also are almost finished with the Mistborn expansion. And the best part is that this will be coming out in the fall of 2026. I, for one, am pumped. This will, of course, include a player guide, a world guide, and its own adventure. If this parallels the Stormlight release, then we'll likely get some serious detail about the inner workings of the metallic arts of Scadrial, as well as a canonical story for the adventure that might add some really cool background to the world. The RPG Kickstarter included Stormlight and Mistborn, so this will be coming soon, and we already have our order confirmed. If only Brotherwise would ship us our Stormlight books. Brotherwise still isn't done in the spotlight though. They've also announced their potential next steps in the RPG space, Elantris and World Hopper. The Elantris release should follow after Mistborn, and I would expect that it would follow suit with the 3-book release. Also, I am so freaking excited to see how they handle Aeondor. There are essentially infinite Aeons, so maybe we'll finally get an Aeonic dictionary. At the very least, we will get to explore the most powerful investiture system in the Cosmere, and this will certainly lead to tons of chaos in games. I'm sure my players will handle this power with responsibility. And of course, after Elantris, the World Hopper RPG should bring everything together beautifully. This book will likely include information about all the other minor worlds in the Cosmere. We'll get to see Awakeners, Aetherbound, and maybe even Yolish magic. I personally hope we get rules about Dawn Shards and Shards. I already know my players are going to want to be vessels at some point. But I imagine this will be a World Hopper's dream, so we're excited to see what it looks like when it releases down the line. My theory for the end of the Cosmere is actually pretty simple. We have Hoid, this incredibly important character who has gone all over the Cosmere collecting magic. I think he's been doing it for a reason. My theory is that Hoid is going to get all 16 shards into one place, and with access to enough investiture, he will be able to reforge Adonalsium, returning him to his universe, and possibly having to sacrifice his life in the process. Now, it is no secret that everyone wants visual media for the Cosmere. This includes Brandon. What do we already know? Well, it's coming. There is no doubt. Brandon has been talking more and more about the video projects he wishes to see for his universe, and there are 2 projects he mentions consistently: a Mistborn film and a Stormlight TV series. The Mistborn film has actually been in the works in the past, and even went as far as getting a studio signed on, but recently something didn't work out and it's back to step 0. I speculate this is one of the projects that might have ripped Elantris 2 from our future, and I think I'm okay with that. If Brandon is working hard at getting his work on the big screen, I have 0 complaints, as long as he finishes the books. Looking at you, George. As far as the rest of the properties go, we just aren't sure. He has hinted that a Tress animated film could be possible, and even sold the film rights for The Emperor's Soul, but that's a weird story. We really hope to get more concrete details at Nexus this year, and of course, we will keep you posted. But what do you think? Are you excited for the next RPG? Are you waiting on the edge of your seat for a Cosmere Game of Thrones that actually has an ending? What book are you most looking forward to? Let us know what you think in the comments below. I also want to give a special shout out to our true Lightcaller patrons, Mac, Aquila, Cobweb, and Stephanie. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. Kolo?